even after being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey and then doing all these projects with Oprah, I would still think, am I going to be okay? So to my younger self, I would say, kind of let go and let God. And
Love
if
that.
God takes care of the birds of the air, he's going to take care of you, Tim Storey.
Got questions, we bring the facts. From proven pros who walk the tracks. Business life, no smoke, just flames. Ask the experts, David Williams brings the game.
All right. Good morning, Insurance Syndicate Group. It is that time. It is August 29th. It's 10:30 a.m. It is that time for another episode of Ask the Experts. And I'm incredibly excited about this episode because we have a very, very special guest, a dear friend of mine, a very close mentor of mine. As a matter of fact, he is an acclaimed cultural influencing thought leader, life strategist, author, speaker, counselor, known as the insight of coaching high-profile individuals like Robert Downey Jr., the life coach of the stars. He's a humanitarian, and he's been labeled the original comeback coach. And we have on today, folks, none other than the Mr. Tim Storey. Tim, welcome to the show, and it's an honor and a privilege to have you here today, my friend.
All I got to say is you guys have good lighting, and you guys look very handsome.
You too, right back at you. So we're all in good company today, it looks like.
Welcome.
No, I'm gonna kick it off with a question that I think after a lot of observing, because we've mentored together for a number of years, became great friends in the process, and one of the things that you talk about all the time, Tim, is how to stay steady in unsteady times, right? And I think if we look at the world we live in today, it's about as unsteady as it gets, and I think that's a great place to start with our audience today. And when you truly observe great leaders in this world, they have an elegance and a calmness about them during the fiercest storms. And over the years, one of the most remarkable qualities I've observed in you, Tim, both as a mentor and a friend, is your extraordinary capacity for equanimity. That ability to stay centered and composed during the most challenging times. And the question is how has this resilience contributed to your success? And what practices maybe have allowed you could share with the audience to cultivate such a rare and powerful skill?
Okay, number one, the way you framed that question was just fantastic. It's actually trained behavior on the side of my life. For some people, they're just born in a certain way where they're just quiet and there is a steadiness to them. It's just kind of part of their DNA. With me, it's trained behavior, because when I was a kid,
I think we froze up there, Tim.
Yeah, I think his internet might have cut out for a moment there. We'll get this squared away in just a moment, get Tim's stream rolling again, and keep on rolling down the road.
Yeah, just one moment, folks. We'll get Tim unfroze here, and I'm excited to hear the answer to this question.
There we go.
Am I back on?
Yes, sir. We got you.
Okay. All right. So for me, I was saying that it's learned behavior, because there was, in my family, there was drama. And it was having to do with the fact that my parents didn't get along very well. And my father struggled with alcohol addiction. He was a great guy, though. But there was a lot of drama. And one of the things I say is don't get dramatic in the midst of the drama. And how do we do that? It's, as we've been learning, it really is your mindset. And your mindset is yours to set. So I've learned to set my mind on the right things.
Well, I absolutely love that. No, great answer. And I know we've known each other again for a number of years, and faith has been a bedrock in both of our lives. And can you maybe tell the audience how your faith over time has guided your decisions in both in business and in life that led you to having, just like in your best-selling book, the miracle mentality?
Yes. So when we were kids, born in Compton, California, it's like a tough environment. So a lot of people from these type of communities, we look for something outside of what we see, which what we saw was scarcity, we saw lack, we saw limitations. So my mother took us to church, and that's when I was 4 years of age. And I'm trying to tell you, I gravitated to that thing called church. Because sometimes they had free donuts. They had some free donuts there.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites too. I think coming in too, they had apple cider for us too. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then there was a really happy Sunday school teacher that I had when I was like 6, Mr. Robertson. I'll never forget that. I was only 6, and he was teaching us all these stories that were beyond, like Noah built this ark, and Abraham and his wife were not supposed to have a baby, and they did. Were beyond, like, and that was like fantastic for a mind like mine. And so I gravitated to biblical thinking. And then I was very, very touched by God at the age of 10. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And then you mentioned that God doesn't give us an invitation to our purpose if he's overly concerned with our limitations. I think a lot of people, struggle with moving past their self-imposed limits to accept that divine invitation to greatness. And what do you have to say to maybe some of those people that are in that place today?
Yeah, I think one of the things you've seen by being around me is that I really don't think that what I'm doing on this earth is really like all me. I really believe that God has enabled me, that God has empowered me. And so I lean on that scripture, Ephesians 3:20, for God is able to do. The word able means he has the necessary power, skills to accomplish what he has purposed for me. So again, God would never give the invitation if he's overly concerned about your limitation. So everybody that is watching live and those that will watch this later, God is giving you an invitation to do some wonderful things. August 29, 2024. September could be the best September you've ever had coming up, but you have to tap into his ability, and it'll help you to fulfill your responsibility.
No, I love that. What I heard there is the time is now, right? Because I think a lot of people get caught up into the past and they can't change the past, right? And a lot of people get caught up worrying about the future that they can't control. But it's when we're living in minutes and moments, we're in the present, we're in that moment, we can have the clarity for maybe that next great God idea that allows you to step into that, maybe that destination of greatness, which you're meant to be. And that kind of leads me into that next question of, I think there's two different types of moments in life. There's those inconsequential moments that more times than not, myself included, we get caught up into the small stuff. We sweat the small stuff. And then we look back at it and the very big thing we thought was going to blow up in our life never actually came to fruition. But I think if we're not careful, it's those moments that can cloud us and take away the clarity that's needed from some of the most important moments in our life. And it's those defining moments. And I believe that we get few defining moments. Some will even say that those defining moments are the way that God answers our prayers. And, when it comes to those defining moments, can you maybe share with an audience like one of your most memorable defining moments that launched you into your life to get you to the place of greatness that you're at today?
Yeah. So, again, great way of framing this question. I think that we are going through two things at one time, and that is recovery and discovery. Recovery from your past, like what's happened in your past. Recovery from what's happening in your present. Every one of us right now, we're plain injured in one way or another in our life. It could be a family member struggling. It could even be a physical injury. It could be a mindset. It could be a relationship problem, financial problem. We're all plain injured. So we're going through recovery. And if you're not careful, you get so caught up in your recovery zone, you miss the discovery zone.
Yep.
Discovery zone is the unfolding of life. So this is where kids have us beat. Most children, they live in the discovery zone. They wake up saying, give me some cartoons. Give me my iPad. Give me something to stimulate me. Let me be curious. Let me discover something. So don't ever forget this, that God will many times call you to an upward calling and a downward time. That's very powerful. Watch. He'll call you to an upward calling and a downward time. Like you're like,
Love
I'm
that.
not quite ready. Well, he's called you because he knows that along the way, you are going to get healed. You are going to mend. You're going to get restored. So I will tell you guys, because I've been at this life for a while now, is that most times where life presents a big opportunity for you, you will not feel prepared. But you got to step up and step out anyway.
Yeah, and I think remember too that God's never going to give you more than you can't handle. And that very thing that you're praying for, I think a lot of people don't realize is we got a misconception sometimes of how God answers those very prayers. I think back in my time, right along the same subject matter when I was in my Circuit City days, and I woke up and I couldn't walk, and doctors were trying to limit me with a label and trying to say, David, you're going to be on long-term disability for the rest of your life. And I knew God had a different plan for me. So it was, I got to that pivotal moment. I had to choose what fear meant to me, because that's the place that I lived in, right? And I remembered something that sounded cheesy at the time, but it resonated with me in the moment, of two different ways we could define fear at a mentor earlier in my life. And that was forget everything and run, FEAR, or face everything and rise. And I believe when we face everything and rise, we're living in a lens of faith. And that gave me just enough courage to make that leap of faith, get back to work, push through the health challenges. And then God unfolded all these different things in my path, from the location closing down from the insurance industry, the friend that got placed into my life that was running an insurance agency that got me to take action. And then the lack thereof, the money that all of a sudden 3 weeks later, the liquidators come in and say, Dave, we're looking to get rid of all the open merchandise. And, to me, that was a God idea that God put in my path to seize the opportunity that allowed me to, take that leap of faith and be here in front of you guys today. But if I chose the latter, I might be living a totally different life. And like you say, Tim, sitting in a setback, or even worse, cementing myself into a setback.
No, but I love that about your story, because if you look at it, when all that was going on, you could have just got so overwhelmed that you just froze.
Yep.
And what's going to happen in life is, in the middle of your prosperity, there's going to be problems. That's one of the things I learned by working around celebrities. Like the biggest celebrities in the world, we would be like in a restaurant and then come out and paparazzi. And I remember one of the guys said, "Oh, I forgot I'm in the movies." And we were laughing. But in the restaurant, we were just talking about life, talking about his mother being ill. We weren't talking about that he was making like $22 million a movie. We were talking just about life. Yep. So you decided to step up and step into what God called you to do. But again, for everybody watching this now live or later, is that's where that faith is important, and also the power partnership. You need other people around you to help push you.
Absolutely. No, I love that. And I know you've guided some of the most influential people in the world through some of their darkest times. And, I guess, what are some of the qualities and the mind shifts that you've seen, the mindset shifts that you've seen in some of the most miraculous, I guess, comeback stories? So when you think about somebody that was at the lowest of low, not having to name names, but what that looked like to making the ultimate comeback, what was your favorite story there, and maybe some of the qualities that individual had?
So, I've worked with so many entertainers. I started this in my 20s, and I will say some of the older people that I work with, starting off with, is I would be around guys like Charlton Heston, Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau. I used to eat dinner all the time with Tony Curtis. I was always around Vidal Sassoon, Lee Iacocca. And then, as you know, that it became into the younger guys like the Kanye Wests of life. But one of the things that I've seen with people that are high profile, that we call celebrities, the word celebrity means to be celebrated. in my opinion, we're all celebrities because hopefully somebody celebrates you. If it's not your mother, hopefully it's your father. If it's not them, hopefully it's one of your children, or somebody hopefully celebrates you. So one of the greatest things that I see in the setback to the comeback with those types of people that I work with is when they start to get the meaning of life. And that would be so many of them. At one time, they thought the meaning of life was for them just to have more hits, whether they were the music industry or they were movie stars. But for them to get the meaning of life and really get touched by God, and you guys, that's like hundreds that I've seen this happen with, hundreds. So that's what I love, is to see when life touches them and the lights come on. They become
I absolutely love that. And I think that comes in a different place and time for all of us. And it's usually in a little bit later season of life. But sometimes our later seasons of life is our best seasons of life. And I really, really, really love that one. And one of the things I love that you shared, Tim, and maybe you could share that with the audience today, because I think it's very relative to some of the things that we face and the root cause of why some people maybe they keep trying. And it's like, you know, you got two different types of people in life, right? You got some people that can't seem to catch a break, some people that can't seem to get a win. And then you got other people, when you look at them, it's almost like everything that they touch, it's like they got the Midas touch. It's like they win at everything that they do. When you think about the parallels between those two individuals, I think what's very telling is the parable that you love to tell, that I'll let you tell, Tim, is that farmer mentality and that farmer story and how that relates to business and in life for so many people on the call today.
Yeah. So I like that scripture, Proverbs 12:11. That's what David's talking about, is he or she who works their land shall have abundance. But if you chase fantasies, you lack wisdom. We're living in a society that we are constantly being prodded to chase fantasies. If you scroll through TikTok, somebody who is a novice is trying to give you professional ideas.
Yep.
That's not good. So the idea of working your land is a process. You got to plow the ground, then you got to plant the right seeds, then you got to water the seeds, and then you reap the harvest. So when I got really disciplined as a teenager, at 15 already, I was working my land. And I remember my mother saying to me, Timmy, I'm a little concerned about you because you stay in your room and you study all the time. And I said to her when I was 17, I'm training to be Tim Storey. And she said, what is that? I said, Mom, I'm going to help change the world. She goes, I remember her closing the door and going, okay.
I love that. That's great. That's
plowing, to plant, to water, to harvest. And when you do that, payday will be on its way.
No, I absolutely love that. And I love that story because, I mean, it resonates with, you know, it could be in your business life. You got to be a good farmer, right? It's such a great analogy. And then in your relationships, in our faith, in our health, you know, all the important facets of life. I think if you take that principle and you show up in the lens of faith and you stay consistent, knowing that, hey, you're not going to see maybe that first sprout above the surface for a very long time. It could be weeks, months, could even be a year or more, depending on what you're trying to harvest. But you got to have faith that it's all taking place beneath the surface. And it's those ones that maybe have faith just a little bit longer, see that huge harvest of abundance.
We could stay here on the interview just for 1 minute, because I feel like there's people that you're so close. You're so close to what you're looking for something to work. Okay. You're so close. So what you need is you need a reset. So you don't always need to do a redo, which is like, okay, now I'm going to scrap that. No, you need a reset. And the reset could be a good conversation like we're having right now. This is a reset.
Absolutely.
Or happen to God again. That could be a reset. So again, some of you do not need like a redo, like this is not working. You need to reset yourself. So, David, you know this discipline about myself. Like already this morning, I've studied 2 hours, and I study things that I probably will never teach. So, because of my background, I study the Bible a lot. So, I study the Bible an hour today, but I was also studying on disappointment, on why people get disappointed. I may never teach all that information, but I like to continually learn. So, that's me plowing, planting, watering to reap the harvest.
No, I absolutely love that. And when you say that too, like spending 2 hours in your discipline of studying and doing that every day, you know, I'm a firm believer that success leaves clues. So maybe we can walk in a little bit deeper on, you know, what does a day in the life of Tim Storey look like when it comes to the routines and the non-negotiables that, hey, this has to be in my day no matter what, because I know the compounded effect of that allows me to continue to walk a life of greatness. And what is Tim Storey's non-negotiables when it comes to your daily routine?
Yeah, so I think there's differences in the way some of us approach the game.
Yep.
So when you look at basketball, Michael Jordan approached the game different than a Magic Johnson, and a Magic Johnson different than a Larry Bird. But yet when they got on the Olympic team, 1992 in Barcelona, they were just playing at this amazing level. So David Goggins and I look at the game completely different. So he's really into the hardcore discipline and a military way of looking at it, where I'm an artist. I'm a creative. I'm in the middle of creating Broadway plays. I'm working on a movie with one of our biggest movie stars. I'm got a talk show coming up. I'm a creative. So my reason for discipline is different than a David Goggins, or maybe even different than my buddy Ed Milet. I'm coming in just because I just want to be prepared. I want to be ready. I think when I coach somebody, I put about an hour into the homework that they have done. So if I coach you for an hour, I'm doing an hour of prep work. I'm not doing like just a few minutes. I'm prepping. So my thing is I always want to be ready. I want to be ready. So that's my reason. So just a quick thing. I wake up, I brush my teeth, I wash my face, I go into a whole different room, into an office, and that's when I get into this whole Bible side of things. And I study the Bible for an hour because I renew my mind. And then I get into studying something else, which could be a TED Talk or something. And then I go to the gym or do something in the area of physical exercise at least 5 days a week, just because I need to, and it makes me feel better. And then I get to do a lot of fun things in life.
No, and absolutely love that. And I think it's those like sacrifices that a lot of people don't see behind the scene, right? They see the guy out there with the Midas touch doing everything, but then they don't see, like, to your point, it's like that age old saying, it's success equals when preparedness meets opportunity. That's when we see success. So, I look at you as somebody that no matter the situation in all facets of life, there's that level of preparedness is there, so that when God wants to do, and we never know when that's going to be, he wants to bring us that next God idea, wants to bring us that next blessing, that next tipping point that could potentially shift and change the trajectory of our life. Well, we got to be doing our due diligence of being in the state of preparedness that's welcoming that God idea to come in, that's going to take us there, right? So I think that's beautiful. And I got
to say this because I think it's kind of interesting. I was doing the 10X conference, which I think I've set the record of doing it more than anybody else as a speaker. Andy would know that. They've had other people that are in the inside that work within the group that have done things, but as a speaker. And I was in the back, and it was me and Lewis House and a guy named Ed Milet. And there were some other people. We were in the back just chatting. So someone came up and they said, "Tim, you're on in 5 minutes." I go, "Okay." So I was just teasing with everybody. Then another guy comes and goes, "Tim, you're on in 2 minutes." I was still teasing with everybody. And then one of those two guys, I won't say who, says, "Don't you need to be like hyped up?" I go, "I'm good." Because what's happened is I've put in like 30 hours for that talk already. I put in 30 hours. So that's why when I get on stage, it comes out of my pores.
No, absolutely.
And because I'm 30 hours into this, guys, it's over with.
Yeah.
It is over with. I'm 30 hours of information and preparation. So when I get on that stage and put the left foot down, the right foot down, boom, it's game on. But that's the preparation side that you're talking about.
No, absolutely. It's just like anybody, like any great master that's out there that you hear about. It's like putting in that minimum 10,000 hours of the work. And I think that's what they're talking about too, because to achieve you can get good at something with maybe putting in a little bit of work here and there and become good. But if you want to become great, if you want to become not just ordinary, but extraordinary, it's really doing what you're talking about there and putting in the weight. I mean, just like going to the gym, right? You're looking to become a bodybuilder, or maybe just get in really good shape, get that six pack. It doesn't happen overnight. It's usually 10,000 hours in the gym that's getting that person and transforming that person.
It's very, very powerful. Is that so? When I would go to Quincy Jones's house. So Quincy Jones is a great friend of mine, and if you don't know who he is, you need to watch the Netflix documentary on the Quincy Jones. Okay, because he's worked with anywhere from Frank Sinatra to Michael Jackson. He's the one with Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson that created "We Are the World." Okay, that song. So Quincy Jones is one of my main mentors, and so some of you don't have life coaches, and you think, okay, if I get a life coach, I got to really just make sure that man or woman is just going to just instantly take me to those high levels.
Yep.
Many times what I get from Quincy Jones is like one line. So there are guys, I've life coached, you guys, for 30 years. I've been their life coach for 30 years, and they talk to me twice a month for 30 years. One guy said to me a couple weeks ago, he said, my wife asked me why I keep doing this because I'm doing pretty well, he said, I just need to hear your voice to keep me on track. So one thing that Quincy Jones said to me is, he says, Tim, quit being scared with your great ideas. You're scared with your great ideas because you see me as Quincy Jones. Yeah, I'm sitting in his $51 million home.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's a little
absolutely.
All these Grammys everywhere.
Yeah.
He says, you're a little afraid to bring ideas. He says, Tim, he said, what if you're withholding something phenomenal?
Love that.
Because you're afraid to throw out your ideas. He goes, this is the grace zone. Throw out great ideas. Oh my gosh, that changed me. Holy schmoly.
No, absolutely. I absolutely love that. And, one of the things that I think there too, it's like if you look at anybody great in the world, what do they have around them? Outside of the power of partnerships, they have wise counsel. And that's why I'm a firm believer. Everybody in all important areas of life, you need a coach, you need a mentor. But I think what you got to be careful of is where you're getting that wisdom from, where you're getting that counsel from. In the sea of, I think it was out there's 813,000 coaches that are out there, right? And then we got the 7-8 figure business coaches that have never owned a business before. So you got to be very careful getting advice from them because they haven't been through the problems and the trenches and the difficult scenarios that you're at. But, you look at somebody like you, that's the real deal. It's really important to find those right mentors that can give the right wisdom, because the wrong wisdom can give that opposite effect. And I guess what is your recommendation for somebody out there? And it could be in business, it could be, in their faith, it could be in their health, of what they should look for when trying to find great counsel, when trying to find a great coach that has maybe the roadmap and the compass that could help navigate through a situation in life that might take that person 10 years of struggle on their own, but they can cut down the time to 10 months or even less.
Yeah. So what I'm looking for in a coach is, number one, an example. So how are they living their lives? How did they get through adversity? How seasoned are they? What happens to a lot of people in getting one of these coaches out there, as you said, there's that many coaches, is that they're not getting seasoned coaches that can handle where you're headed.
Yep.
And so again, you may have a visionary heavyweight, but they are seasoned like a lightweight.
Yep.
So the season that I'm in, man, I got to
That's
go
so
at
good.
guys that really know. But you have become that kind of guy. Like, we started off as me mentoring you, and now we partner together on projects because I just see you just rising and rising and rising. And my goal is that you'll pass me, because that's true mentorship. It's the Moses to Joshua. It's Elijah to Elisha. So this is my excitement about you, Dave Williams, is that you will pass me in many of the things that I've even been able to accomplish. That would be true mentorship and discipleship.
Well, just know that that means, the absolute world to me. And, over our time, I think, it's been a number of years we've been mentoring together now. It's just been an honor, a privilege, a profound experience that, I can confidently say I won't be sitting in the seat that I'm sitting in without you there. And, sometimes it's having those days, again, like you said earlier, like hearing the voice, because what it does, sometimes just hearing your voice and sometimes just getting on another call, something maybe we talked about a year ago or 3 years ago, snaps back and grounds me back in the reality and makes me remember, Dave, keep the main thing. Dave, pay attention to what God's telling you, not what you're worrying about or what you're fearful about. And it's just like, I hear those little voices and those little messages from you. And sometimes we get caught up, and again, we sit in on our own setback, right? We get stuck into a setback. And when I hear that, it's the very thing that kind of snaps me back out of it sometimes.
I'll give you a quick example of something. During the Olympics, the USA basketball team was struggling against one of their opponents just a couple weeks ago. And Carmelo Anthony, great basketball player, did great in college, did really well in the NBA. He was sitting courtside, and he literally got in the face of one of the greatest players ever, LeBron James, okay? And you could just see him yelling at his friend, okay? And so that's what true partnership is. It's not always verbally, but sometimes it's just a yell of the heart, like, step it up, step it up.
Absolutely.
I do that to you sometimes without you even knowing I'm doing that to you.
I'm sure for sure.
We'll be in a group of people like backstage at a big conference, and Dave will be just being quiet, just trying to just be respectful. And then I'll just start pumping him up by saying great things about him that are true in front of very powerful people. And what I'm trying to do is say to you, you belong in this circle. I've even told you, Dave, come over here. Listen to what we're talking about.
Yep.
I'm saying you belong in this circle. Get in this circle.
No, and I love that too. And now that you're saying it that way, I can see things from a different angle that way too. I love it. And then, and I love that too, the power of partnerships, right? You think about like the power of some of the greatest partnerships. Just think about the Michael Jordan flu game, right? Could Jordan have ever gotten through that game? Because, it wasn't, a regular thing that he had to occur, but in that moment, he was in his own season and he had to lean on the right people. And that's where in that moment, it was important to have those powerful partnerships around him. And I guess, what do you have to say to people that are maybe in those moments, or they're struggling, sitting in a setback for a little bit too long, on how they could find those right partnerships that allow them to get through that season and, build the resilience that they need to get back on track?
Yeah. So I'm going to shock you a little bit with this answer. I think that many times when somebody's in a setback, watch what I do with this. You go what I call singular instead of plural. So if a little kid wants to stay home from school, let's say they're 7 years of age, Mom, Dad, I'm sick. Watch, they've gone sick.
Yeah.
Give me some food. I need orange juice. Watch, they've gone singular. When they're excited, when a little kid is excited, they go plural. They want to play outside. They're going to run with their friends, right?
Yep.
I think that when you're in a setback, you can't stay singular too long.
No.
You got to go plural, guys. You got to get into a community. That's why I'm glad you guys are doing what you're doing here. So thank you for letting me be part of your community today. you got to join community. And that's why this group is important. Masterminds are important. One-on-one coaching is important. That's why church is important to me. That even if I'm on vacation, I would try to find a good church in the city that I'm on vacation in. I was in Italy recently, and I went to church in Italy just to be around that environment. So don't stay singular, okay? When you're in a setback, you got to go community, which is plural.
Not absolutely like that. And I love what you talked about too, the reference to the child. And, I'll go into that for a minute too, with that inner childlike reflection, because, sometimes we get away from, and we get untaught of the things that we are. You think about what a child does, right? Like they're innocent. They don't know no for an answer. They continuously get back up every time that they fall. They don't know failure. And I think we learn all those other things along the way. And, I think when it comes to our inner child, if you could go back and speak to your younger self and you had a moment and you could think about a moment in your life, like that one moment, what would you say during that moment to comfort, guide, or encourage your future self in this life?
Yes. I would say to myself, to my younger self, is be more in the moment. And what I mean by that is I was really concerned about the fact, like, am I really going to do well? And I used to play in my mind a lot because of coming from limitation and coming from a mother who only went to 6th grade, father only goes to 10th grade, that even though I kept going on and getting a doctorate degree, I would still wonder, like, am I going to be okay? Even after being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey and then doing all these projects with Oprah, I would still think, am I going to be okay? So to my younger self, I would say, kind of let go and let God. And if God takes care of the birds of the air, he's going to take care of you, Tim Storey. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. No, that's incredibly powerful. And I know a big part of what everything that you do in life, in the professional world, outside of the professional world, really comes from a really great-hearted place. It comes with a profound purpose, because you're just a true humanitarian, and I haven't seen many people like you. When it comes to humanitarian work, let's dive in that a little bit. Like, how does that purpose, that deep, profound purpose, interconnect to everything else you do that I guess helps be the amplifier of Tim Storey out into the world?
Yeah. So the Bible says, pity the person who, when they fall, not if they fall, when they fall, has no one to help them up. That's Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 9. I have always wanted to help the underdog. And I remember one time I was running in 7th grade in long distance run. And there was a guy named Don that we were always neck and neck, both in short distance and long distance. And this particular day I was beating him in 7th grade. But it's funny, he was like 3 inches taller than me at that time. He had a growth spurt. I'm like, man, his legs are so long. But I was beating Don, and I had him. And I saw this kid, Freddie. He was breathing hard. We had passed him, lapped him twice, and he was having an asthma attack. And people were so caught up in the race that they didn't realize Freddie was having a real asthma attack in 7th grade. So I stopped from that number one position to stop. I went to Freddie. I go, are you okay? He goes, no, I can't breathe. I said, do you have asthma? He goes, yes, I have asthma. I didn't know Freddie had asthma. So I carried him to the coach, Mr. Smith. We got his inhaler, and Freddie was okay. That's how I live my life. I'll stop from the number one position to help Freddie, who's having the asthma attack.
No, I love that. And I guess, how has that way you've led your life, that the way of living in grace, that way of living in a place of, I guess, just compassion and kindness, how does, how would you say that really I guess, affects the journey from you to where you are today, like really living in that place to where it was before you got to that place?
I think that the place that I am right now, with a new talk show coming out next year at a high level, the fact that I'm in 90 airports around the world right now on all these screens because of Reach TV, the fact that I'm in thousands of hotel rooms motivating people on these TVs, from the Fairmont hotels to the Ritz-Carlton to the Four Seasons, to all these projects that I'm doing, I could not have manipulated myself into this spot. So I believe what you make happen for others, God will make happen for you.
No,
So
I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, I didn't do it with that in mind, but you reap what you sow.
Oh, absolutely.
So on a weekly basis, and this is to everybody watching, on a weekly basis, Joseph, my vice president, your friend, assistant to what I do, will say on a weekly basis, he'll say, "You want to hear a miracle?" Oh, and it's always somebody huge contacting me to do something huge every week.
And I've been a witness to many of those that have come to fruition too. I mean, we've been on calls together, and I think mutual, that was where like our kids project came to fruition. We were talking about, man, could you even imagine if we had mentors like this when we were kids, and we got a jump start? Like, because we found out later in life, like the real wisdom, later in life, we started to realize that, hey, anytime you wanted to get to the next best place in life, it wasn't a what, it was always a who. It was a who moment. It was somebody sharing counsel and wisdom. And we're like, what if kids had access to that? And then we came up with a mastermind for kids and been doing that for the past year, broke a Guinness World Record together for the most amount of kids and parents to learn about financial literacy. And then, like, to me, that was just God we were doing all the right things. And that was God bringing into our lives another God idea, another blessing to go out and magnify his impact.
Yeah, so I want to say this to everyone watching. If you would just tithe a part of your life to helping people, which is 10%, just tithe 10% of your life to help somebody.
Yep.
And like Dave, I watch you, what you do for like young people, when you had me speak to that group, when we really started talking about Fifth Degree Academy, and you were relentless to get us in the book of world records, and you did such a great job of like really facilitating this so we could break that record and help so many kids. But to everyone watching, guys, give just 10% of your life. So I give like 40% of Tim Storey to aiding people's lives for free. And some of our friends say, Tim, you should be, way over $1 billion by now, way over $1 billion. And I say, I don't know. How do you define rich? I feel pretty rich in spirit, rich in faith, rich in friendships, rich in joy. And yeah, that's how I see we're rich that way.
No, absolutely. And I firmly believe that. I think we're rich, we're blessed. And, you've heard those sayings, right? That's, if you do enough and you give enough to other people in this world, you'll really never have to worry about your destination. And I've really tried to live by that. My dad was a big man of faith, just read the Bible relentlessly and instilled that into me. And that's why it's always been a cornerstone in my life. But over time in my life, what's been interesting about it is that cornerstone, that foundation, it's just strengthened, right? Because I've realized that in a lot of those, dark times, when you lean in and you just put your faith forward and you put your trust forward, that starts to become stronger and more resilient. And the more resilience that I have in that area of life, that I find that I let go, I let God, that God just truly does take care of the rest. And when I'm in that place of servitude, whether it's, we try to look at that in every walk of life, like in all of our businesses, you know what? The best thing we could do for our customers is be servants to them and then over deliver, even in areas maybe that we're not meant to be servants inside of our business. Like, we got a recruiting company, but we notice a client in need in another area of life that we know a thing or two about that we can help serve them in. But what do? Come back later. They come back later and do more business with us than ever before. And it's not why we did it, but it's like, to me, God taking care of everything else. And evolved over time where almost, and I think you could probably relate to this, it's almost become intuitive. There was a moment just last week where I'll get these intuitions where I'm pulling out of a parking lot, getting my hair cut, and there was this woman, I just felt a vibe and a frequency from her. Yeah. And something spoke to me very loudly, stop and have a conversation.
Yes.
So I yelled over to her across the parking lot, and you would never think to do that. Complete stranger walking down the road, looked down on her, looked like she could have been homeless. I'm like, hey, miss, do you need help? And she responded with, I always need help. What made you ask? Mm-hmm. And then she we got into a deep 15-minute conversation in the parking lot, and it was, so I have to get emotional, but she was like, this is the first time anybody has cared in a very long time. Mm-hmm. She goes, I live in a house. She goes, I'm not homeless. I have a home. That's one blessing that I have, but I don't have anybody to talk to. I have a family of children living with me, and they're so verbally abusive that I just go on walks like this just to try to remain normal and try to maintain myself, because it becomes so much where I can almost not burden it. And then when she said in that moment, she goes, I pray and I pray, and I feel like God doesn't listen to me. And I felt God was speaking to me in that moment, because he was telling her, hey, I'm listening, paying attention, because I responded to her. I'm like, well, what do you think made me out of nowhere do the uncommon and reach out to you? I think, if we look at it through a different perspective, I think God is listening, and he's listening through me to have this conversation today. But also, I think you need a different perspective sometimes to look at our situations just a little bit differently, and how God is listening to you. Because, some of the very things that he puts in our path, we might not understand in the moment, but he's doing so with intention to build something around us or within us that takes us to that next best place of greatness. But that would have never happened in that conversation.
If you let me say this, number one, that's one reason we all care about you, is your compassion. Even in the New Testament, over and over, Jesus would see people, and it says, and he moved with compassion. Yep. And he moved with compassion. Compassion, you guys, is love in action. So it's easy to say we love somebody and we love people, but what are our actions? What are we doing? What are our doings? So I want to challenge every one of you that today is Thursday, August 29th. Some of you will watch this later. For 7 days, let's have some more doings.
Yep.
Call your mother, call your father if they're alive, call your sister that you're having problems with, or your brother. Do something. Again, compassion is love in action. And that was God using a human being named Dave Williams, to help change somebody's life. And that's what God wants to do with all of us. We're his hands extended.
No, absolutely. And I believe in that. I mean, what was interesting about that moment, it's like, because I think we all got challenges in our life. Life happens to all of us. Life isn't perfect. We have anxiety. We got stress. It's in those moments that I find the most grace. It's in those moments that I find the most calmness. And like earlier that we started out the conversation with the Tim Storey equanimity. So now that I think back to the very first question that I answered you, I think I even have greater clarity how Mr. Tim Storey walks the walk with this profound calmness to, your foot could be on fire, but you still have this grace and this elegance about you. And I think, when you're doing God's work and you're blessing other people, it's hard not to have that grace and elegance about you. So I think it truly does reflect the true humanitarian that you are, because it's not just minutes and moments that Tim Storey lives like that. It's every moment and every second and every breath of Tim Storey's life that he lives like that. I think that allows you to have just this aura about you that's just so compelling and profound.
All I have to say is thank you. And thank you for aiding me and caring about me, because I think that anybody that's a servant, they need people around them to strengthen them, to build them. And if you look at even like the disciples, they were around each other, building each other. So thank you for being there for me and just always encouraging me to do what I do. And again, to everybody that's watching today, your dreams are going to come true. Just stay in alignment to the assignment.
Yep.
You might have to readjust some things according to challenges that maybe you faced, maybe a divorce or a detour or delay. You might need to adjust, but adjustment's not always terrible. But your dreams will come true. That's not the big thing. The key is, are you in alignment to that assignment? Are you in alignment to your God? And do you have that type of peace that passes all understanding? Because, man, people can't take away your peace. That's a
No,
beautiful
absolutely. I love that. I love that. It's beautiful. And when I hear that word too, alignment to your assignment, right? I think a lot of people are thinking, hey, you know what? I got to get through my assignment now so I can be philanthropic later, so I can give back later. I need money in order to give back. And they stay into this place thinking that that's going to come. But then life happens 5 years later, they're of that same mindset. But in true alignment to your assignment, I believe everybody in the call, especially business owners, we're in the midst that we can make a difference now. We're in the midst where the things that we talk about, that level of compassion with their own teams that are around them now, they could start showing up as a different leader through that lens of compassion that brings a whole nother life to the company culture that they live into today. And, you know, you think about like, hey, this getting biblical again, like how did Jesus go out there and did it? He had his 12 disciples. Well, many of you in your business, you got your disciples out there and you might just need to lead them a little bit different in your business. And then once they really step up into their purpose, into their gifts, that it empowers them to basically, you know, take your company to the next level. So I'd say, what would you have to say about people when it comes around the time is now and they could do that in their very own businesses, walking like a leader today, and how they could start today?
Yeah, I think, again, in fairness to everybody watching, number one, don't get down on yourself. I think that it's not always that somebody is selfish on why they're not doing things. It's just that they're misled. So we need more examples of people that are thinking about giving, about helping, and being true servant leaders. So I've been fortunate enough to be friends with a John Maxwell at a very close level for over 30 years. So a lot of guys that I'm around, this is just how we do things. I mean, what a privilege for me as a young guy. I was speaking to I think there was 11,000 people there that night in South Africa, and to watch Nelson Mandela walk in, to sit on the front row to see Tim Storey talk. What a servant leader Nelson Mandela was. And so I think that, as Dave is saying, in the midst of all your busyness, just take time this week just to serve somebody, just because.
Yeah, and then come back to this feed after you've served somebody. And what I would challenge everybody to do that's watching this, look up this feed in the group. Tell me whatever you felt in that moment, and then how you felt after committing that act of servitude. Because I think sometimes we'll do an act of good, but we never take a time to soak in the moment and feel what it felt like. Because if we were to do that, it would create a lot more moments of that, because we'd realize the very things that we're seeking answers to in our life in that act of servitude, that we get the answer to in that moment. And I think, you know, if everybody does that and you leave a comment, maybe make that a challenge by next week, by the time we have our next Ask the Expert call, come back to this feed. And I would love to hear your story of that act that it did and how it changed your heart and how it impacted your day or week.
And Tim, I'd like to ask you a question about prayer in business real quick. You know, my father has been a business owner for 40 years. Like, when do you pray? He's like, dude, I'm talking to God all the time. He told me that years ago. And so he taught me to, you know, have a consistent and constant conversation with the Almighty. But one of the things that I struggle with, and I bet a lot of people here do as well, is, you know, how do you pray in those moments where, let's say you are in a downtime? Sometimes it just feels so brass and selfish to say, save me, God, you know, create abundance in my business, just asking me. I'm wondering if you have maybe just a formula or some advice on how to pray in your business during both the highs and the lows that can be more in alignment with God versus like our own concept of what we think is best for us.
Yeah. And Andy, to start with, I really like you. I appreciate you. You have a real radiance about you. And thank you for always like serving like you do. I think that today's society has made things easier for us. I like this Bible app. And in this Bible app, you can give you things like the Bible verse of the day or the devotion of the day, or they'll have a certain pastor do a devotion. And then they also have like worship music. So what I do, Andy, a lot of times is I'll go to this Bible app, and there's also a prayer app. I'll go to the app and I'll just read a biblical verse and I'll meditate on that. And then I will then begin to just meditate, which means to ponder and to focus on. And then from that place, I begin to pray. So let me just make prayer easy for you in the next like 20 seconds. Just start with praying for your family. Whoever your family is, just pray for your family. Pray for our country. Pray for the world. Pray for things outside yourself. And then try this discipline. And then just say, and God, thank you for taking care of me too. Because God's got your back. I think prayer is more about us interceding for others rather than us being nervous about ourselves. Because God's got your back.
I
The
love
Bible
that.
says this is at the right hand of the Father, making intercession for you 24 hours a day. So God has your back. So pray for others. God has your back.
Thank you.
And,
Awesome.
and all things are possible through him. So when you really think through that, that means there's nothing that's impossible that we can't conjure up or think of in our mind. And man, this has been an absolute like pleasure. Probably my favorite interview of all time. Just because of how meaningful you are to me, and to be in this moment, just know this hour just, meant the world. And I could sit here forever, and we always want to be on time, and I want to be respectful of your time. So I want to end it on a final question for Mr. Tim Storey, and then go into just, how people can work with you too. And we'll share that on the screen, because I think there's a lot of people wondering, they would like a little bit of Tim Storey in their life and how they could work with you. Like I've been blessed to work with you. But, the final question I've had for you is, you've impacted so many countless lives. But if you were to define your legacy in one sentence, what would it be? And how do you want to be remembered for the work you've done?
Yeah, so I think that more than like things that people would think that I would say, of things that maybe I have accomplished, I like the fact that I'm known as being compassionate, the word we used before. I ran into a lady at CVS the other day, and she goes, "Oh my God, Tim Storey." I go, "Good to see you." She said, "You changed my life like 12 years ago. I was living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'll never forget. You came off the stage. You were speaking to 7,000 people. And I was yelling your name, and you just stopped and you just listened to me." She goes, "You're so compassionate." Yeah. Love and action, just compassion, and compassionate would be enough.
No, I love that. I love that. And beautiful words from an absolutely beautiful person. So again, very, very grateful. And I guess, we'll end it out. I want, everybody out there, show Mr. Tim Storey some love, because he spent his time and he poured into and sewed into every one of us today in the group. All the people are listening, our 8,200 members and beyond. We're sharing the feed out there. So please drop some love in the chat, whether you're watching live or you're watching the remake of this. But I want to know, how can people work with you? Because I think a lot of people that would love the honor and the privilege to work with Tim Storey, and, what could that look like? And then Andy, after Tim gives his word, please share the image that we have there.
Yeah, I think that there's two ways right now. And I need you guys to understand this. When you get to certain stages of life, whether you're a woman or a man, you're not like searching to go work with people. You're looking for alignment of who's next and who we can possibly aid. Okay. So some of the coaches that we've been at this for a long time with John Maxwell, and we're really pulled a lot of places and a lot of things. So I'm always open to aligning with somebody who has a good heart, good motives, and is looking to discover the hidden you. Man, there's something in you that I have a gift to pull out. So that is my new course that I'm teaching people one-on-one, how to discover the hidden you. If you think there's more inside you, then just DM us, and my team will get back to you. So I'm at Instagram, just Tim Storey Official. Maybe someone could put that in the chat. Tim Storey Official. Just say interested in coaching with Tim. And I'm going to help you discover the hidden you like I do so many people. And I'm going to blow you away. I told a guy, I said, you'll be crying by the second question. And I tell you what, he's a tough guy. He was crying. He was like, he was in his G-Wagon. He was crying. He was going, what? I said, I'm pulling out the real you, buddy.
Well, so, I can tell a lot of that because you got me crying on the call today, man. And it's just been, profound ride, a profound experience working together. And I can truly say, without our partnership, I wouldn't be in the ship that I'm leading today, doing the things that I'm leading today. So I'm, forever grateful. And then Andy, if you could share up there too, what we got for the audience. And man, it's an incredible offer. 7-week Tim Storey e-course comeback. Like normally Tim does $5,000 to that, and that goes to his Dream Foundation too. But today, and for the group today, and people watching the rerun today, if you go to timstorey.com/coach, only $9.95, which is like 80% off what he normally charges for the coach. You can do the QR code, but man, it's a great way to work with Tim. And if you really lean into this course, I'll tell you, for the next 7 weeks of your life, you'll look back after 7 weeks and you'll be living and leading a different life. If you really lead into it, you take action and you live in the moments that Tim's going to talk about in this coach. So thank you so much. Tim, I'm just grateful for your time today. I'm grateful for your mentorship. I'm grateful for your friendship, and grateful for your partnership, my friend. I appreciate you.
I think Tim might have frozen out there, at least on the video piece.
He actually froze in a real good way, though.
He's got this
perfect smile about him too, with grace. So I love it.
He broke the internet with this one, so it's good.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll keep an eye out for him if he reconnects. I think it must have just frozen out for a moment.
Yeah, no. But no, thank you again. Let's everybody show Mr. Tim Storey a ton of love. Let's drop it in the chat. Let's drop some love, heart emojis, some fire emojis. But man, that was a powerful and my most favorite episode of Ask the Experts in the Insurance Syndicate group, where every week we try not to disappoint. We try to bring you world leaders, best-selling authors. We try to do things differently, not just making it about insurance, but making it about life and how it ties back into insurance. And man, today was an honor and privilege to be with all of you today with somebody that means a lot to me in my life, and just grateful to be able to share it with you. Until next week, I look forward to seeing y'all on the next episode of Ask the Experts.